Hello guys and welcome to this recorded class on section 5.1 on the role of operations management. So this is our introduction into operations. I hope that you guys can listen to this or watch this presentation, and then there's some cognitive questions as well. And then of course we'll continue off and discuss this in the next class next week. So we're on to operations, the final part of our IB program. What is operations about? Well, operations, here's some of the key words we hear about operations. Essentially, it's how does the business make or produce what its product. So you see things like inputs, it takes inputs, it produces outputs, and then it has a process in between. This process is the operations. This operations has to be managed. There's people running the operations. There's a chief operating organizers in many companies, and so on. So in your cognitive, they talk about firms. Some firms will design products. They'll set up manufacturing facilities. They'll run company factories. They'll ensure the products are produced in time for the customer. That's essentially what operations management is responsible for. So operations, it's what an organization does, it's what they deliver. So another simple example, a bakery, they produce the bread, they produce the cakes and so on. So, initially it's easier to think of operations for tangible products, like something we consume. So you go to a restaurant, you get a meal, or sorry, you order something in the restaurant, you get that food. But also operations is also on services. So for example, if you worked as a consultant, you produce a service, a project, and so on. And your operations is how you do that project. So operations, how the company produces the goods and services that meet the consumer's needs and wants. And the operations management is the art of managing production to get the best end product. So basically it's how you do this in an efficient, effective way. So see, these are some of the words we're going to use later. So this page here, or this picture here, it has lots of the different buzzwords you hear in operations. Cost. It's about minimizing cost. It's about effective production. It's about designing the right product. It's about getting the materials at lowest cost. It's about having an effective system. It's about analyzing where you can improve and so on. These are the different things that you have in operations. Here we have a very, very simple input-output model. So, essentially that's what operations is. You take some inputs, you process them, and then you produce an output. Think about if you are making a cup of tea, your inputs, well, you need a kettle, you need some water, and you need electricity, and so on. So you plug in the kettle and you fill it up with water and you press the on switch. The process then, you pour the water into the teapot with the tea bags, and the boiling water together with the tea bags brews the tea. And then your output is a delicious cup of tea. So it's really that simple. And operations is essentially about how do we do this? How do we make these cups of tea in both a cost-effective way and also in ensuring the quality? And of course, you guys all know as well that cost and quality, there tends to be a trade-off there. So if you want high quality, you probably have to pay a bit extra. Think about the last time you went on an airplane. So you fly with Ryanair, you basically sit anywhere and you bring not much luggage and it's really cheap. You fly with SAS, a bit more expensive, but you're guaranteed a bit more comfort. So that's one of the essential challenges of operations as well. Do you go for high quality or do you go for low cost? And lots of studies have shown that it's very hard to, you might ask, why don't you just do low cost and high quality? But it's very hard. Any companies that try to do a mixture or focus on cost and quality, they tend to get caught in the middle and not really succeed. Operations in practice, production process rely strongly on technological innovations combined with specialized labor, suitable materials, and managerial expertise. These are the inputs going into it. So technology, think of any company. So a lot of you guys work in cafes, you work in Netto, you work in other forms of retail. This is the the same idea for the production process. Consider the following things you need to consider as you do reading on this. How has operations management changed over time to reflect the various ethical considerations? So it's not all about putting your operations in the lowest cost environment anymore. Not because, I mean, some studies have shown that it's not profitable just to focus on lowest cost, but also in countries where you have a low cost, it's primarily for reasons because the regulations aren't very strong, the standards aren't very strong. So for ethical reasons, it's not very fair to operate in a country that employs child labor or has low general standards for working. This might be interesting applied to Amazon. Think about all the heat Amazon get for the warehouse. Think about the video we watched on Amazon. I think that's quite interesting to bring that in and link it into Amazon. So remember, guys, examples are very important in this course. So maybe you can get a little example there with if Amazon were operating 20, 30 years ago, they probably wouldn't get as much criticism for their operations as what they're getting now. How are changes in operations management influenced by the strategic plans of the business or organization? So when businesses move into new areas or new geographies, how does this impact what they're producing and how they produce and how effective they are producing it? What is the influence of technological developments on the role of operations management? So what trends are we seeing? We're seeing robotics, AI, etc. coming in. A bit earlier, back about 10, 15 years ago, it was all about offshoring and outsourcing because we had, especially also for white collar jobs, because we have the internet and better technology, we can offshore jobs to other parts of the world that previously had to be in the same office, for example. So these are things you consider when you're looking at operations. This chapter here is just an introduction, but these things the whole way through the course will come back to these ideas. It's also, how does operations work with the other business functions? Well, operations' main role is to deliver the what of the organization objectives. The operations is responsible for producing the good or service at the right cost and quality trade-off. These operations are done by people. Someone has to hire these people. Someone has to make sure these people are getting the training and so on. This is operations linked with HR. So your planning manager, your operations manager, or your COO might come up with a plan saying, well, we require 20 people to run this business. Please hire them. Of this 20 people, we need 10 workers, 4 managers, and 6 admin support or something like that. Please make sure you hire them and so on. Need funding to hire these people, to get the machinery and the plant machinery, the buildings needed to make the operations that cost money. You need funding so that the chief operations officer, the COO, he or she will have to have a close relationship with the CFO, who is in charge of the purse strings. To produce goods and services must be marketed. You produce the good. I mean, if you could produce the best good in the world, but if nobody knows about it or nobody thinks it knows the merits of this good, it's not going to get sold. So your COO has to work closely with your head of marketing to make sure the marketing guys know what to push about this product in the marketplace. What are the unique features of the product? Is the product socially responsible? Is the product long lasting? Is it durable, etc.? This is the sort of things that they need to work together to communicate. How can ops work with other departments and make valuable recommendations? So operations is on the floor. Operations is the kind of first line of defense. Your operations manager will see, will be able to update the finance team, the leadership team, where you need to invest in new machinery, where you need to get things fixed, like so pay for maintenance, etc. So this is a big part of operations role. It's your operations manager has to make sure that your finance manager or sorry, that your organization doesn't be hit with big shocks. Oh, guess what? Surprise, surprise, we actually need $1 million for a new machine today. Oh, why didn't you tell me last year? You know, a good operations team or good operations manager has good plans. It knows how, it knows where it can produce effectively. It knows what machines will need to be replaced. It knows what's the new machines that might be needed to become more effective at producing the good or service. And it has a close relationship with finance and the leadership to make sure to make sure that these things are got at the right price and so on. It can also give feedback to the HR managers. The HR manager is saying, well, who should we give the bonus to this year? Well, your operations manager can say, well, here's our top guys. Our top guys have produced this much. Or if you're looking at the reports on performance, you should look out for these things. The people who deserve to get the bonus are the people who deserve to get the bonus are these people, and also they can give feedback to managers on non-financial rewards, such as examples of non-financial reward, like let me see, a non-financial award, like, I don't know, like if you're awarding team members with a trip away for good performance and so on. Your operations manager, this is really important, this point here now, when we think about the situation a lot of companies are in. A lot of companies are in crisis due to COVID. They need to cut back on expenses. Who does the finance manager, who does the CFO turn to when they want costs to be cut? They turn to the operations manager. The operations manager needs to be able to identify where cost savings can be made, then link in your finance. It's your operations manager who knows the break-even point of production, who knows the margin of safety. Again, they have to be close with the CFO and the other leaders and get this information across. And of course, your operations manager has to discuss with marketing on, you know, where can we expand, what is realistic, what is feasible in terms of expanding. So maybe the marketing manager does a fancy Ansoff growth matrix or a BCG matrix and says we're going to grow in these areas, but the operations manager, it's their role to say what's feasible. So if you can go into your textbook and look at table 5.11 on page 342 for an example of the range of goods and services. And then look at the different types of pure goods, pure services, and then locate some examples of products on this continuum. An increasingly important topic is sustainability. The role of the operations manager is nowadays not just about producing a good as cheap as possible. Or as we say there, it's not just about planning the production and executing the production. The operations manager also has to take other factors into consideration. Generally speaking, the role of the modern day operations manager, it falls into 3 categories. There's the economic or financial side. They manage the budgets, ensure they're as efficient as possible, use resources to the best advantage. So this is the typical one. Okay, so basically get the most out of your inputs and process. Get the most output out of your inputs and processes as you can. Be efficient. Do it cheaply. Get the most out of your resources. But now they also have to be social. They have to be responsible towards the workers. They have to be responsible towards communities. They have to have some social sustainability. And then also there has to be the environmental sustainability. So this is the main roles of the modern day operations manager. Go back 20, 30 years ago, it was only economic that they had to focus on. The triple bottom line, so I just took this from the Novo Nordisk website. So the Novo Nordisk talk about the triple bottom line. So essentially it's it's a play on CSR. It's saying, look, it's not just about being financially responsible. We also have to be environmentally and socially responsible. Very similar to what they had on the previous page. And one of their mission statements is creating long-term value for patients, employees, partners, and shareholders by developing innovative and competitive solutions to patients' unmet needs. So I recommend you look around for other companies. I guarantee you there is not a company around, even a company like Danske Bank is very big on their sustainable approach these days, or their triple bottom line. Like, so a company, you know, you think a bank, what is a bank doing about sustainability? But every organization is doing it now, because this is good CSR. It's about winning your customers by being a leader, by being a true champion of sustainability. So Novo Nordisk ambition is to be a sustainable business. They talk about financial responsibility, the social responsibility, and the environmental responsibility. And notice the arrows here. These are saying that these all tie into each other. So if you're environmentally and socially responsible, you'll also be financially responsible, and so on. So the three work together. And at the center of their triple bottom line is patients. That's the people they care about the most. So doing business in a financially, environmentally, and socially responsible way, anticipating, adapting to, and creating new business opportunities from changes in our business environment. So guys, for this chapter, this is what I recommend you do. This is your kind of checklist. Understand operations are the fundamental activities of organizations. What does that mean? I mean, this is what organizations do. They make stuff, they create stuff, whether it's a product or a service. And if you don't do this right, you can have the best marketing plan, you can have a brilliant CFO, you can have a HR person who's great at identifying talent. But if you don't have a clear plan on what these people are going to be doing, or how they're going to be doing it, or how they'll manage their finance, it's not going to be any good. So operations is crucial. Operations are done by people. That's the link with HR. Be clear on why that's important. Operations need to be funded. This is the link with finance. Operations produce goods and services which need to be promoted and sold at the right price. And this is where marketing and sales come in, where they link together. And last but not least, operations management is influenced by economic, social, and environmental factors. Operations should aim to be sustainable in all three areas. Okay, have a look at that, guys. We'll talk more about this the next day. You'll also have some cognitive questions on 5.1 to do. And good luck. I hope you enjoy the lesson, or I hope you have enjoyed the lesson if you're at this stage. Thank you.